What's up, guys? We are looking at the Astro theme version of Katy Perry's chart because today we're talking about Katy Perry. And do you see how wild this chart is? You really can't tell what's where because it's so bunched up that, between the 12th house and the beginning of the third house, like, if you, like, it looks like Venus is in Capricorn when really it's in Sagittarius because, just the glyphs don't fit. So this is frustrating. And of course, I had to put it in my software so that we could have a Serenity Now moment of seeing what's where. But I just wanted to lead with that of she has what's called a wedge chart. And to have a wedge, the lead planet, which is Pluto here, needs to be within a trine, so 120 degrees of the final planet, which is here. And I don't know, like, this is almost just a sextile. So if it was it's 72 degrees, the difference between Pluto and Mars. Over here, this is Chiron. This is a planetoid. It's not a planet, so it doesn't count. Some might argue, but I'm saying no. That's where I stand on Chiron. I think Chiron's important, but I don't think Chiron's a planet. It needs to be a planet to count. The fall of 1984 had this setup. Mars is relatively fast moving, but the September, October, November 1984s, and honestly, I do begin to think of charts like models of cars. Maybe that's crude, but I have these templates in my head that just kind of make sense to me because there are some themes that I find with the different templates. So the fall of 1984 people, many of them have these wedge charts. There are some, though, where the moon is somewhere else, so I'm gonna just move the moon. This is no longer Katy Perry's chart. But if you had this is what's called a bucket formation, and the moon is over here. It's the handle of the bucket, and then the rest of this is just within this little space. I think in order to have a bucket, the handle of the bucket needs to be, I think it's at least two houses away from anything else. But don't quote me on that. But the idea is when you have a concentration of energy over here and then one planet over here on the other side, the one planet, first, it tends to behave in extreme ways. And second, it tends to get disowned. It's not slam dunk that it's definitely going to get disowned. It depends on what it is and what aspects it's making, etc., etc. But often the energy goes to someone or something else, and it seems to be something exterior to you, even though it's your own energy. Anyway, that's just some fun for your edification. But in this case, it's just a wedge chart, and so there's benefits and drawbacks to having this type of setup. Benefits, you have a concentrated amount of energy and you can be very focused for life, essentially. Drawbacks, it's hard to get interested in things that aren't concerned with the houses and signs involved. So we're going to talk about all the Scorpio. Can you see all of the Scorpio? We're going to talk about it. But, there's 12th house through 3rd house. That's where the concentration is. There's more to life than the 12th house through the 3rd house. But it's just when there isn't any energy in your natal chart, it is difficult to, basically it's like dangling your keys in other areas where it's like, look over here, like, can I get your attention over here? And not necessarily, and definitely not easily. Just additional notes. Let's see. no air in this chart, and nothing in the personal. So Aries through Cancer, nothing in personal, but does have social, which is Scorpio counts as a social sign, and then universal begins with Sagittarius. But in terms of like having like really deeply personal concerns in terms of Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer, that's not there, although all of these first house planets would kind of supplement that lack to a great degree. Let's talk about all the Scorpio, though. All of it. She's a triple Scorpio. And that's not super evident if you are looking at surface level Katy Perry. I feel like if you look for it, it's there. Like the intensity is there. But and also the drive, right? This is someone who got very famous by working pretty hard, I believe, based on my cursory knowledge. I wouldn't say that I'm like a Katy Perry super fan or anything. Like, I know about her and I read parts of her Wikipedia before doing this. But Sun Pluto conjunction and Saturn Moon conjunction is a pretty determined human being, especially since Pluto's in its home sign, and Scorpio moons, in my experience of them, are no joke. Triple Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, all Scorpio. And then Pluto conjunct the Sun. Just, if we could say quadruple, quintuple Scorpio, I would. But let's just say triple Scorpio with like 10 exclamation marks next to it, and that's about the vibe that we're going for. However, this is someone who publicly shoots fireworks out of her boobs, right? Like in music videos. WTF. Mercury is on the ascendant, and that's what accounts for that. Like the bubblegum aesthetic and, you know, teenage dream, etc., like acting younger than your age, wanting, like going after the eternal youth type of thing. That is very much Mercury on the ascendant. It's in Scorpio, but Mercury's Mercury. So that accounts for it. And it's really, really conjunct the ascendant. Like technically, Saturn and the moon would be considered within the realm of a conjunction, as well as Sun and Pluto would be considered within the realm, because it's, 10 degrees on either side. So there's 5 planets that are within the range of being a conjunction to the ascendant. That's just a tremendous amount of energy. I need to stop saying the word tremendous. I say it all the time. Shit ton. A shit ton of energy. It's no joke. This chart is no joke. And it's a very powerful chart. It's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of like pure emotional energy. Scorpio is one of the hardest working signs, one of the most determined signs, and one of the signs that's least likely to let go of things that it wants or needs or desires or feels. It's not coming out of those pincers, If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Additionally, just a note for what's going on right now with social media and Katy Perry and people making fun of her and her tour. Mars and Capricorn, my experience with people with Mars and Capricorn, they need to be respected, and they do not take kindly to insults, especially if they are trying hard. Capricorn is a sign of respect. Mars in Capricorn will go out of its way to get respect, demand respect, or fight if it feels disrespected. That's just a fun fact about those guys. But I'm going to get made fun of by the person who makes fun of me for talking about Pluto all the time. I'm going to do it again, so if you don't want to hear me talk about Pluto, now's the time to leave. And we're going to look at the current sky here. This is today, but we're going to go back some years to when Katy Perry got famous, which is about this time of year in 2008. This was the album that had Teenage Dream, and, you know, she was everywhere for a while. I already told you what I'm going to talk about, so where is it, right? So you will notice that it's several things. What rules Katy Perry's 10th house and midheaven, which is the career indicator? That'd be the sun, because Leo is the sign on the midheaven. This is the Leo glyph, and the sun is the ruler of Leo, and here's the sun. So Pluto, she has a Sun-Pluto conjunction to begin with, and then Sky Pluto over here was working on sextiling her Sun-Pluto conjunction. So that was doing two things, because she's Scorpio rising, so Pluto's her chart ruler. So her chart ruler was in her second house, which has to do with money, but it also has to do with the talents and skills that you have to make money. So if you're a singer, that would be a second house thing. Singer, performer, whatever, etc. So a sextile is a nice aspect. Does Pluto make nice aspects? I'm shrugging, but it will change your life and in an extreme way. So it was doing an extreme thing with a nice aspect to Katy Perry's Sun-Pluto conjunction. And so Pluto aspecting itself, it's her chart ruler, so that would mean that something happened to her. And Pluto aspecting the sun, that's her 10th house ruler, so something happened to her publicly. So that, like, this is as public as it gets. So even though the transit is here in the second house, it calls the 10th house into the equation, because that this is how transit math works. You look at what is aspecting what, and then you look at the planets that are the houses that the planets impacted rule. And that tells you the ultimate outcome of a transit, even if it is in an entirely different house. And you're like, why is the midheaven involved? Well, because if the midheaven ruler is activated or called into question, then it's whatever happens is something that's public. Cool? Cool. What else do we see in this? At this time when Katy Perry got famous, something that's interesting is that the transiting south node was in her 10th house, which usually that's not a great career time. And Saturn was transiting her 10th house, which Saturn can kind of go one way or another. Either you are known for doing something, you have a reputation for something, and you are working hard at gaining or maintaining that reputation, or if you're not handling the energy well, your reputation gets trashed and your career, Saturn through the 10th house can be a career maker, it can be a career ender. But clearly it was a career maker for her at this time. The other thing that my eye went to when I asked the question of what was going on is Uranus here in the 5th house. The 5th house is the performing house, and it wasn't a super active transit, but it's a planet going through a house, and by the looks of it, it had only entered her house within the 5th house within the last couple of months, maybe within the last year. I'm not gonna confuse you by going back and forth in time even more, but it had probably, again, within the last year or two, been trining the Saturn and Moon in her first house. So this would be the setup to the fame that came at this time. So this is like the sky aligning in a way where you never know exactly what the energy is going to do with anybody. You can look at solar returns, progressions, do psychic readings, like to get an idea of what category or what the ballpark is of the energy involved, like generally what you should expect, but you just never really know at the end of the day exactly what the energy is going to do. Katy Perry, though, had some good transits in 2008, and then, just like also just fate on her side of like this was the direction she was going in. She fit in with the zeitgeist at the time, was embraced by the culture. She was super popular for quite a while. And then, she's still very well known and has been able to do a lot of stuff. And I'm not going to make fun of her for going into space because I don't care. Like, it is what it is. She went into space, and that's a fact about what happened. All right, now we're in present day today, the day that I am doing this recording. And some things have changed. Again, I'll stop talking about Pluto when Pluto stops doing stuff that's interesting. Do you see where Pluto is now? It's here, in the third house. Okay, fine, whatever, but please note, it's now making a square aspect to the Sun-Pluto conjunction. So last time, like when she got super famous, Pluto was at least making a nice aspect, and now Pluto's 31 degrees from where it was when I showed you a couple minutes ago where Pluto was. So now it's making a harsh aspect, and this is the Pluto square right now for people who have Pluto in Libra, Scorpio. I think it gets different, but Libra and Scorpio, it's a midlife transit. The Pluto square, because Pluto's orbit is more of an oval and less of a circle, the Pluto square happens to different people at different ages. But for Katy Perry, this is a middle-age transit. Katy Perry and anybody born in the early 80s, and it gets weirder in terms of the late 80s. It will happen at a different age. So what this is, though, when Pluto squares Pluto, is it kind of calls into question some of your life foundational beliefs. And it's an opportunity for you to get rid of some deep psychological shit that's not working for you anymore. And in Katy Perry's case, because of her Sun-Pluto setup and the fact that the sun rules the midheaven, she has to do this rather publicly. Pluto is ideally a planet that you deal with privately, on your own, with a good therapist or people who you really trust. You don't want to have to do your Pluto square publicly. I was able to do mine privately, and it's not completely done, but still, like, I would not want this type of thing. Let me just put it that way. So I have a bit of compassion for, like, oh, we have to unearth some stuff and deal with some psychological stuff, and other people are going to see it and know about it. I mean, that I guess is part of the life that you have when you're famous. And again, with like all of this stuff very, very close to the ascendant and the first house, it's much harder to hide. And even if these planets, which they are in Scorpio, it's much harder to hide, and you don't necessarily want to hide. So like put the Scorpio planets in a different house, especially like the fourth house, the bottom of the chart here. You would just spend all your time hiding. There's no reason to come up from underground. And don't come after me for saying that. You know it's true if I'm talking about you. You're watching this from your bunker. But she's got a lot of fame, she's got a lot of money, presumably, like, Wouldn't she want to like hide in a mansion and go through her Pluto square? Well, she's touring. That's kind of the opposite. So, um, I feel a little bit cringe about that specifically. I don't think I'm gonna pay like close attention to what it is she's doing. Also in the realm of like, ooh, ugh, I don't know. Here's the fifth house. Uranus is no longer in that, but Saturn and Neptune are, and Neptune's been in there quite a while. I'm pretty sure she's used to that energy, but Saturn joining Neptune, and I've talked about this a bit already. It's just this wall or kind of like unreality feeling of like, why aren't my tricks working? My tricks are not working. Like, I know how to perform, don't I? And and people are just like, no, we hate it. It's awful. What are you doing? You didn't prepare for this at all. Like, again, I'll leave it at that. Like, this is kind of rough. Okay. So what the thing about a chart with, let's just go back to just Katy Perry's chart. When you have this sequence of planets that are so close together, like here's the thing, Pluto's squaring this now. In a couple years, Pluto's going to square the ascendant, then it's going to square Mercury, eventually it's going to square Saturn and the moon at the same time, and then eventually it's going to move on. You can have these good transits from outer planets, like what happened when she got famous with Pluto sextiling all of this stuff, which it continued to do, throughout the last, how long has it been? 2 decades almost. So she had a lot of nice, pleasant, supportive, beneficial energy. And now Pluto is beginning to square those things, which is a harsh aspect. So it's making harsh aspects to stuff that it was previously making nice aspects to. So you have like times of like everything is gangbusters, and then times of everything is awful. And those times last quite a while, and then it'll leave gaps where not a lot is happening. So that's kind of like, I don't know how the chart distribution system works precisely. Maybe you do sign up for this energy, but this is quite the experience to have a wedge of just like all of this energy in one place that alternately gets hit by a lot of good stuff and then can get hit by a lot of bad stuff. And so you just have these long stretches of time of like, but it's everything at once is how it can feel. Especially so like Jupiter transits, like Jupiter blows through a sign in a year. So you could have a year of like Jupiter doing pretty nice things to all of this. And then the next year, Jupiter's making a harsh aspect, which isn't necessarily bad. It just makes it bigger and more extreme, or, the good is really good, the bad is pretty awful. And same with Saturn, like that's a two and a half year period when Saturn goes through a sign. So it's the same thing of like Saturn can do a bunch of nice stuff, and then Saturn can be not so nice to you for quite a while. Powerhouse chart though, triple Scorpio, 10 exclamation points. Do I know exactly what's going to happen? No, but my thesis on this is it's happening publicly, and like, please don't sue me or come after me. Like, I do have compassion for this, because what I think is a lot of the same energy, obviously the same energy is getting triggered, but there's different outcomes because of the nature of the aspect. So just a fun learning opportunity about wedge charts, an extremely extreme chart, and the current sky. A fun combination. Hope you enjoyed this. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.